ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive.
It is Wednesday, May 21st. Your drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Our text line is open. Entire show today, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Coming up today on the program, we're going to talk to the Director of Operations, Marshall Basketball, Neal Scaggs. He's going to get us caught up on everything Coach Jackson is doing. Got camps coming up. So he's going to be our Wednesday guest coming up here shortly. So we'll get into that with him. But until then, let's start getting those texts in as we've got Marshall Baseball coming up tonight. The 4-seed Herd taking on the 5th-seeded Louisiana Raging Cajuns. This is Sun Belt Conference Baseball Tournament action, tentatively set for 8:30 tonight. We're going to have that game with the voice of the Herd, Steve Cotton. That's coming up later right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. And I said tentatively, hang with us now because games go long. And already we've seen that happen at the Sun Belt Tournament. Let's get you caught up on what happened in the Sun Belt Tournament. Yesterday, Texas State eliminated Appalachian State in the knockout round 3-0, and then Georgia Southern beat Arkansas State 13-8. So Appalachian State and Arkansas State are gone. Now we're in the double elimination portion of the tournament. And earlier today, it was Old Dominion defeating Troy by a score of 4-2. So the 6th seed with the win over the 3 seed. And we're in the bottom of the 8th now. The 7 seed Texas State is trailing the 2 seed Southern Miss 8-1. And again, this is double elimination. So Texas State will live to fight another day. Also, Troy will live to fight another day. But can't lose this point out for Troy, and unless Texas State mounts an amazing comeback, it's going to be Southern Miss with the win. And then later on, it will be Georgia Southern versus Coastal Carolina. And that is the game before Marshall's game. So we'll keep an eye on that one later on because if that game goes long, that's going to push the Marshall game back further on the time. So that's why I'm saying hang with us. Stick around. We got you covered. We're going to have the game. You can do it. Mr. Cotton said to do if you follow him on Twitter, X, at Herd Cotton. Turn the ESPN Plus video feed on and then turn your radio feed on. And we got you covered, by the way. If you can't listen to it on the radio, we have ways you can tune in. We have an app, and I don't think I talk about that enough. I know I mention podcasting a lot, but we don't talk about the app enough. It's totally free. It's on the App Store. So if you have an Android or an Apple phone, it's on the App Store. We make it easy for you instead of going searching for it. We've linked them on our website, wrvc.com. You can also stream the radio station. We have an Alexa skill. You can enable that. You can listen live on the website as well. So we've got several ways for you to listen to the radio station, and then you can listen to the Herd take on Louisiana with Steve Cotton with all the play-by-play. I'm excited. Steve does great with football and basketball. And I've said this before, and I truly mean it. As great as he is a football play-by-play announcer and a basketball play-by-play announcer, he's even better, if that's possible, as a baseball announcer. Just listen to him during games earlier this year, televised, and of course, he will be calling all the Herd action. He's definitely a baseball guy at heart. You can tell, you can listen to it. So I'm excited. Kick back, listen to a little baseball action coming up tonight here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Speaking of baseball action, the Pirates got the win yesterday against the Reds, 1-0, and so the series wrap-up was earlier this afternoon, and the Pirates got the win again. beat the Reds 3-1. So the Pirates take 2 out of 3 in the series. If you're a Reds fan right now, you're probably shaking your head. If you're a Pirates fan, hey, little sunshine here on your day. Brighten the day a little bit. You got the series with the Reds, so congratulations to the Pirates. And, of course, yesterday, busy night as well because the NBA and the NHL conference finals began. I did not watch the NBA as much as I thought I might, and thankfully so, as Oklahoma City took it to Minnesota 114-88. That was not an interesting game. And then Florida, which I thought, even though the score had indicated this was over, this was a little chippier. I think Florida, truly a tougher team. I don't want to say they're dirty. Maybe I do want to say they're dirty. But beating Carolina 5-2. And so tonight, conferences flip. Eastern Conference Final is going to have Indiana at New York. You remember when these two teams were on each other's level probably around the 90s? Some of you probably don't even remember that. Of course, the Pacers and the Knicks, when these two teams are on and going after each other, this is a great basketball rivalry. I've said this before as well, and I'm going to say it again. When New York is good in basketball, the NBA is better for it. A good New York Knicks team makes the NBA better. And then on the Western Conference side of the Stanley Cup, it's going to be Edmonton taking on Dallas tonight. Now, if I'm Gary Bettman, I'm probably wanting Edmonton to win, even though as far as ratings are concerned, ratings are down a little bit in the NHL. In the United States, because you don't have that many. If you have one original 6 team going on, and Toronto got knocked out. Other than that, you didn't have all your big markets. In Canada, though, the interest is up. So as a whole, the product's fine. But in the United States, obviously, a little less interest in some of the Canadian teams. Edmonton, Dallas should be a fun one tonight. But I think that Florida, Carolina series probably the better of the two, at least the more entertaining so far. Either way, you've got a lot of options tonight. Baseball, you have hockey, you have NBA. So there's a lot going on this week. And, of course, we're going to have that hockey action for you on our sister station, Cat Sports 93.3 and 1340. So we'll have the Eastern and Western Conference Finals, and then we'll have the NBA Finals and the Stanley Cup Finals as well, all on our sister station, Cat Sports 93.3 and 1340. So, with all that said, we'll start getting your text in just a few minutes, and we'll do that at 304-396-TALK. Again, that is 304-396-8255. Now, there's a lot to get into across the board. NFL, interesting stuff to talk about. The tush push continues. Also, there was a proposal to change how the NFL seeded postseason games. We'll talk about that and how that didn't even make it to the actual proposal state. So all of that coming up. But when we continue, we're going to talk a little Marshall basketball. Director of Operations, Neal Scaggs, joins us. We'll talk to him about what's happening. A lot of camps coming up. You might not know about all the things that's happening with the herd. They've got the elite camp coming up, the herd camp, the little herd camp. They got team camps coming up. So Neal is going to tell us all about those camps and how you can participate or how you can get your child involved. That's when we continue on this edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
You're listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Our text line this hour brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop at 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Don't forget, we've got baseball coming up tonight. Marshall taking on Louisiana in the Sun Belt Conference baseball tournament. That game tentatively was set for 8:30. Just got an update from Steve Cotton, voice of the herd. That's probably going to be 9:30 now, and we'll have that broadcast right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Let's turn our attention now to Marshall basketball. You got to have a great director of operations if you want to have a successful basketball program. And we have a great director of operations with us on the phone. Neal Scaggs is with us. How you doing, Neal?
Oh, great. Thanks for having me.
We have a lot to get into. Now, recruiting, that continues to go on, so we'll have more updates when that's finalized. But in the meanwhile, the next wave of herd legends, the future herd, you might find the next Marshall basketball player with all the camps coming up. You've got the individual camps, you've got the team camps. So we'll start with the camps that are coming up for the individual side of things. And you've got the elite camp that's coming up on the 7th next month, and that's for individuals that are in 9th to 12th grade. And that's a great opportunity for players that are maybe looking to make that next step, take that next move to possibly getting into Division I basketball. It's a great way to kind of find out what it's like to be coached by college talent. And, of course, we're talking about Coach Jackson. So we'll start there at the elite camp, how successful that's been over the years, and, what can we expect this year?
Well, Paul, first and foremost, it's a great opportunity, to get in front of, like you said, our coaches and go through a demonstrated practice. It's going to be the same practice that, Obina Anachilli went through for 4 years. And so, we're doing it at the rec center this year, hoping for a great turnout. And we can't stress it enough. You've got to register for any of these camps. So CorneliusJacksonBasketballCamps.com. And all of our different camps are there. So wanted to throw that out first and foremost, Paul. That's very pivotal so we can see who is going to be here. And like you said, great opportunity, high school kids, to get their name out there. They're 3-4 years down the line, and just a great opportunity so we can follow them throughout their careers.
And that'll be followed up. You've got the herd camp that's coming up for ages 7 to 17, and that's going to be on the 23rd through the 26th next month. And then the little herd camp, and that's ages 5 through 8th grade, and that's going to be on the 30th starting out there. And there are different price points. But as a camper, there's a lot that comes with that. You're not just showing up, playing basketball or getting some drills. There's a lot that goes into it. This isn't just a babysitting type of camp. This is real. You're going to get a lot of instructions. There's going to be a lot of drills, and there's going to be a lot of value for your time and your money.
Absolutely. Herd camp, great opportunity to get out there and work with some of our current and former players. We have quite a few former players in town here all summer working out. Might be a Tavion Kinsey appearance, might be a John Elmore appearance. We're hoping to get those guys back. So great opportunity to get out there, have some fun, play with our players and in our facilities. And little herd camp, the same thing to a smaller extent. It's a half-day camp. Same thing, get out there, learn the game of basketball, work with our current and former players.
This is an interesting place because once you're a member of the herd, you're always a member of the herd. And so it's not that hard to get some of the former players to come back and be a part of this. Do you find that that's kind of rare compared to other places where you could have a Tavion Kinsey come back and help run camp? They really all buy into this.
Absolutely, and that's just a testament to the culture that Coach D'Antoni built, and now Coach Jackson. We're continuing. Former players, it doesn't matter if they played here for 4 years, 5 years, or 1 year. Guys want to come back. Cam Kirkman's coming back into town. Kevon Boyles is back in town. Just former players. Again, those are 1-2 year guys that want to be here and work and be around this culture we've built. And absolutely.
Of course, you get to hang out with Coach Jackson as well, so he's definitely the centerpiece of all the camps. He's been running these camps for years. I know he's been with Coach D'Antoni previously, but this isn't just Coach Jackson showed up last season and started camp. This has a lot of consistency and a lot of continuity in these camps. This is a proven camp now. This isn't fly by night. If you've not been to one of these, this is a great opportunity to come to one and see what it's about because, as you said, you're getting the real deal. I mean, you're getting the same treatment as Obina Anachili-Killen or a Tavion Kinsey might have gotten.
Yeah, we're going to the same dining halls they're eating in. We do a quick film, highlight tapes, and film breakdown in the same locker room and film room that these guys are sitting in. So, to get that at a young age, it's really special.
Of course, there's a lot of fun things that go along with it as well. It's not all just strictly basketball. There's fun. There's prizes, giveaways. There's going to be awards ceremony. Kids love swag. There's going to be a lot of that. Autographs, and there's also some opportunities for parents to save some money. There's going to be some sibling discounts. So for anyone that's interested in these individual camps, where do they need to go to get signed up? Because you got to be signed up if you want to be in this.
Absolutely. CorneliusJacksonBasketballCamps.com. It's our new site this year. It's got 3 individual camps on there. Go in, it's got more information, sign up. It's pivotal so we can see who's going to be here, what shirt size, and get all your information. And like you said, plenty of awards, prizes, giveaways. We're always giving away some swag that the players wear. Nobody else has it, exclusive swag. So 5-on-5 shirts, trophies, individual trophies and awards, and pictures with Marco. So come down to the Henderson Center this summer and have some fun at camp.
Now, there's also the team camps we need to talk about. You've got the middle school shootout. That's going to be June 12th, and then the high school team camp, June 13th and the 14th. Let's start with the middle school shootout. This is probably where a lot of kids are starting to form their identity a little bit more. They have a foundation, they have a structure, and this is how you help get them to the next level. Is there anything different between the two camps that you do, or is it just basically the junior high kids, the middle school kids get the same treatment as the high school kids as far as the drills, or is there something different from one from the other?
No, these are strictly team camps. So these are your middle school and junior high team camps. So we right now have 24 teams signed up. That's 6th and 7th grade JV divisions, and then your 8th grade varsity division. So great opportunity. We have teams from 4 states for that. So great opportunity to come to the and play on the Henderson Center court against some competition that you don't normally get to play. And then the high school camp, same thing, freshman division, JV division, and high school divisions. And proud to say we built this camp up to, we have over 52 schools last year with over 80 teams. And, that's a testament to the hard work that we put into this and treat everybody the same, out of state, in state. They come from all over, teams from Maryland, Maine in the past, Tennessee. So great opportunity to show what Marshall's about for those schools, especially to come and stay on campus, eat in those dining halls, and they will forever know Marshall from that. So 3 games a day for that. You can come one day, both days, and again, great opportunity to play in our facilities at Marshall.
What makes these camps maybe different from others across the country? As we've highlighted, Coach Jackson, he's been doing this for a long time, but what does Marshall do to make it a little bit more special? How involved is the staff when it comes to these teams as far as participation, instruction, anything like that? Just what sets this apart?
We cater to the team. Coaches they can play at certain times. They need to be out of here at certain times. We cater to every team. And growing up, Dad was a basketball coach. We went to those camps on the other side of it, and teams don't honor your request, and we do that here. If you need to play and be gone at a certain time, that'll happen. And, again, it's the way we treat people, and they enjoy it. They come back. Teams from Columbus and Dayton, Cincinnati that come year after year, Warren East and out of Bowling Green, Kentucky, they come here. And, Marshall is a special place. We know that, and they get to experience that.
Our guest is the Director of Operations, Neal Scaggs. We've got the camps coming up for the individuals and, of course, the team camps. And then, of course, You get to hang out, be a part of Marshall, you get to experience everything. Just for you personally, how excited are you for this time of year? I know some of the returning players and some of the former players have got to be excited to help out and maybe mold some of these youngsters. But for you personally, what is it year after year that makes it exciting for you?
Well, it's special to see, the kids that go through the camp, and now as we've done the camp for 10, 12, 14 years, now those kids are in high school and they're starting to graduate, and now my son is starting to grow up, and, it's kind of full circle. And it's just this time of year is very special. We all enjoy it, coaches, players, trainers, managers. We're all excited to be a part of this and, again, show what Marshall and this program's about.
I know Coach Jackson's got to be excited as well. He's already shown that Marshall is rising. If there's anything I know about Coach Jackson, he wants to make each camp better than it was last year. He wants to make next season better than it was last year. So, anything surprise that maybe we can anticipate, or just got to wait and see?
No, we'll have to wait and see. That's why you got to sign up, get your name down. We've got plenty in store for camp this summer. Former players coming back. We got some new features to add. So come down and see what it's about, Paul.
All right. My guest, Neal Scaggs, Director of Operations, Marshall Basketball. So anything you can tease ahead after camp, anything you can kind of tease or leave us wanting more?
I kind of alluded to that. A couple future Herd Marshall Hall of Famers, Tavion Kinsey, John Elmore, are in the vicinity this summer, and so they just might make an appearance at the Henderson Center.
I think we lost Neal. All right, we got to take our break anyway. We will hit the break, come back. We're going to get you set for Marshall baseball coming up a little bit later on. The text line is open, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. We got more coming up on today's edition of The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Follow at Paul Swann on X for Marshall sports updates and more.
Our text line this hour is 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Welcome back to tonight's edition of The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Just a reminder, baseball action coming up tonight. 4th-seeded Marshall taking on 5th-seeded Louisiana. Sun Belt Conference baseball tournament action tentatively set for 8:30. We believe we're going to be about an hour behind. So if you will stick with us, we'll get that game on the air as soon as possible. Marshall, unfortunately, has the last spot of the day, so it's going to be dependent on how soon the game ahead goes. But we're looking at about maybe an hour delay from our normal time. And again, we'll have that in its entirety right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Southern Miss went on to beat Texas State 9-1. So Troy and Texas State now in the losers bracket. Old Dominion and Southern Miss continue on. Later on, it's about ready to start, actually. Coastal Carolina and Georgia Southern. Coastal Carolina, the number 1 seed. And, of course, Marshall, the number 4 seed, looking to advance and hopefully get to Saturday without a loss and then get to the championship game on Sunday. So until the games begin, keep it right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. As soon as we're ready to go, we'll go on the air with the voice of the herd, Steve Cotton. It was a busy day today in the National Football League. If you are familiar with the tush push, you know that the Philadelphia Phillies have made this a very effective weapon. And we've seen it time and time again lead to victories for Philadelphia. And there was a push, pardon the pun, to ban the tush push. And that fell short, I believe, by 2 votes today. So the tush push lives. I'm sure that there will be more debate about it, but as it stands now, the tush push is not going away. And then the other big ticket item, the Detroit Lions were going to forward a proposal to change the NFL seeding. And what that meant was the division winners were not necessarily going to receive a home game. Detroit was wanting to push for best record. And for me, and for a lot of people, that was a no-go because the divisions should matter. And part of this is the push to try to make late season games matter. If you're in a situation where you've won your division, you're going to be, unless you're just one game out from the number one seed there, you pretty much know where you're going to be. And some of the teams that are on the bubble, they're going to be a little bit more competitive. But you've seen teams, if you're locked that you're the number one seed, you're not going to, if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, you're going to rest Patrick Mahomes. If you are a team fighting to get a playoff spot, you're not going to rest your starters. And if you're a team that's already locked your spot, you're not going anywhere because you're a division winner. That's been settled. And then you might rest a couple of your players as well. And again, that's all dependent upon the team, the organization, where you're at in the standings. And so I understand where there might be a push to kind of make the latter part of the season mean a little bit more for more teams. But I still think the integrity of the divisions matter. I like the rivalries. The division means something. And more than likely, you're not going to have too many situations where a team in another division is going to have a better record than maybe 2, 3, or 4 as far as the seeds are concerned. A possibility. It is a strong possibility. You could have a team that is better than maybe the 3rd and 4th seed based on divisions. And so, how's that fair? You finish second in your division, but you're better than the other 2 division champions. So how's that fair? Well, it might be fair, it might not be fair, but I think you have to win your division. Those games matter. The division matters, and it gives more value. If you're the AFC North champ, that should mean something. There should be something attached to that. That's why I value the regular season. The regular season should mean more. Of course, now in this day and age, these conference tournaments will mean more. Marshall, however, finished strong in the regular season, so there's a little bit more value being the 4 seed, and Marshall has an opportunity to win the conference tournament. So it's sort of a grab bag. There's some things that are positive about it. There's some things that are not so positive about it. But I do agree that this was something that should have been tabled, and the Lions did pull the proposal, not enough support for the seeding aspect of it. But the tush push, there was a lot of debate about this. So I think this will continue and rage on. It's one of those issues where you're either for it or you're against it. I don't think there's any middle ground on that one. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255 is our text line to be a part of today's show here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Texter says, Paul, I'm with you. You win your division, you get a first-round home game in the playoffs. Texter also says, stop the tush push. Are you saying stop the tush push, or teams should learn to stop the tush push? Wording, it does matter. All right, we'll get more of your texts coming up. And again, that number brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Final segment coming up on today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Miss an episode? Catch it anytime on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Our final segment today here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Our text line is open, and it's brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop at 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Texter wrote in just a couple minutes ago and asked me if I've seen the championship rings yet that Marshall unveiled on social. Yeah, I saw those. Actually, really sharp. Unfortunately, there's not a bowl game attached to those rings, but you've got your Sun Belt Championship ring. Looks really attractive. It looks like the front of it has the Marshall logo in front of, looks like a representation of the Sun Belt Championship trophy. And it's got of course, all of the amenities. It's got the diamonds, look like maybe some emeralds there. You got to have the record on there. You've got the phrase that I guess the season was execution season, so that's on there. And the ones that are being featured on the social media side of things, I think this is Mike Green's ring. That's what it looks like. So very attractive. Been a while since the Herd had some of this hardware to flaunt around. So for the players that remain, some nice hardware. For Mike Green, he can flaunt his jewelry around a little bit now. And for the coaching staff, now it's time for the new coaching staff to go get its ring. Kind of bittersweet, though. You have these championship rings, and yet there are so many players that are gone, and there are so many coaches that are gone. So it's bittersweet to a degree. Now, I'm sure that there'll be a lot of boosters and alumni who will have special deals. So you'll see these things out in the wild from donors, supporters of the program, as that always happens. But, for the players, I hate it only because there's not going to be that many players that'll have one that we will see. I wonder how many rings are going to be sent down to Hattiesburg. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Texter says, Paul, we shouldn't send any rings to any player that left Marshall. Appreciate the text. I don't know if we go that far. That's kind of spiteful. Coach Huff should get a ring. Coach the Herd to a championship. Give the man his ring. Same thing with the assistant coaches. Same thing with the players. Now, if a player graduates, obviously, they get their ring. If a player leaves and goes to the NFL, like Green, player gets his ring, obviously. There are players that are no longer with Marshall. So would you support not giving rings to players that hit the transfer portal and left after the championship was won? And that, of course, led to, after Coach Huff left, that led to Marshall not having enough players to go play a bowl game. Would you support that? Also from our text line, texter says, Paul, if the NFL wants late season games to have meaning, set up a regulation system. 24-team upper division, 8-team lower division. I don't know if that's going to fly. Appreciate the text. That's a soccer-type system. And I've had this argument before with others that are into that system. It doesn't work in the United States because you're not going to convince any owner, at least on this side of the ocean, this country, to go with a system where if you don't perform, you get lowered to another league and it's going to be a drop down. You're not going to convince anyone. I don't think you would get enough votes. Are the owners just going to self-destruct? Like, yeah, we're not very good. Same thing with baseball. Right now, there are some terrible teams in baseball. Do you think those teams are going to go, yeah, you know what? Yeah, we know we're terrible, but we're good with it, actually. We make money. And that's what it's about. I know it's different in soccer and other leagues that use relegation. I just don't think that that's going to fly with all the money that's involved with the owners. The owners aren't going to vote for that. Yeah, could you imagine the NHL or NBA doing something like that? You're not good enough, so you got to drop down, and then you elevate a couple of franchises up. I mean, it would be interesting to say the least, and let's be honest, it might be a wake-up call for a lot of teams. Hey, if you want to continue to play in the big league, you better play big league ball. You better not phone it in. So I like what you're saying. I just don't think that's going to happen in my lifetime where we have the NFL doing something like relegation, dropping a team. I mean, same thing with college. Could it work in college? Could you have relegation? You're not going to, because you're not going to get the power schools to go along with that. You think you're going to have a system where those in power willingly give that up? You have a bad year, you get dropped down to a different level. That's not going to happen. This is not the way the system is built in the United States. It's grab as much cash as you can and stay with your position of power. I mean, what if Marshall was in a system like that and Marshall had a terrible year and then got relegated? Herd fans would lose their mind on something like that. Same thing with soccer in the United States. I don't know. I've heard people actually say that should happen, but then You look at the money that's being spent, even on Major League Soccer. I don't see that happening. It's a fun concept, though. It's really cool. You basically get punished for being terrible, and if you're in the lower league, you get rewarded for working your way up. So there's sort of always some motion here, but taxpayers aren't going to go for that. I mean, how many people are going to continue to pay for that football stadium lease? I'm sure the taxpayers of Hamilton County aren't going to be on board with something like that, trying to spend money. Of course, they're going to have to spend money to keep the Bengals. Same with all the other pro teams. And teams threaten to leave all the time, so the teams have the power. The teams know that don't get a new stadium deal, get financing for the stadium, and you pay for it. We're out of here. We're going elsewhere, because it's built on money. It's not built on actual performance. Thanks for the text. I appreciate it. We got baseball coming up tonight here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930 as Marshall will play against Louisiana. Sun Belt Conference baseball tournament begins tonight. We're anticipating, the tentative airtime is 8:30. We're anticipating that's going to be a little later tonight. So keep it right here. Stay with us. Soon as we're ready to go, soon as the game ahead is over, we will be on the air with the voice of the herd, Steve Cotton. So coming up after Coastal Carolina and Georgia Southern, that game has not gotten underway just yet. So we're looking at an hour delay. That game was scheduled to go on at 5 o'clock, so it's behind, and that's going to put Marshall behind. So we're looking at possibly a 9:30, give or take, airtime for the game. Steve Cotton will have the call. So late night baseball, hope you're ready. Hope you got your energy drinks, and hope you have your TVs on, audio off, and the radio jacked up to hear the play-by-play from the voice of the herd, Steve Cotton, right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. So good stuff today. I want to thank our guest, Neal Scaggs, Director of Operations, Marshall Basketball. Herd camps are coming up soon. Of course, you can head over to herdzone.com, get a little bit more information, I believe, on that. Of course, you can also go to all the Marshall basketball socials, including Coach Jackson's account, and you get all the details there. You got to sign up. You want to be a part of it. The team camps are coming up as well. So there's a lot going on with Marshall basketball. Great opportunity if you want to spend a few days with your child going to team camp or going to the individual camps. It's a great way for that kid to get the same experience as Obina and Achille Killen got all 4 years of his time at Marshall University. I like what Neal was trying to pull it out of it. Hey, give me something. Give me something. What's happening? And he kind of alluded, hey, Tavion, we might have Tavion, we might have John Elmore. Might be a surprise here or two, but you won't know if you don't sign up. So got to sign up if you want to be in those camps. And with all of that said, we're out of time. Don't forget, Marshall baseball coming up tonight. We're looking at a tentative airtime of 9:30 right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. So keep your radios locked right here. And we'll hopefully cheer on a herd victory against Louisiana, game 1 for the herd in the Sun Belt Conference tournament. Have a great night, everyone.
Broadcasting from the Dave & Buster's studios. Eat, drink, play, and watch at Dave & Buster's in the Huntington Mall. ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. WRBC, W231BS Huntington.